All right, episode 67. Today we're going to talk about how and why you should turn your business into a media company. We're going to get started right now.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
All right, episode 67 today. We are talking about how and why you should turn your business into a media company. And you're going to want to stay all the way through the end of this. If you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're watching this live on Facebook, or watching the replay on Facebook, you're going to want to stay to the end because we've got a special surprise. It's only visually, so you're going to want to watch the video. So if you're listening to this on iTunes.
At first I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, damn. We got a surprise for you too, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you're listening to us on iTunes, please leave us a review. Review us. If you're going to tune in on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe. I've seen Brian been posting some extra videos, or someone's been posting out some videos on our YouTube channel.
Sure.
And if you haven't joined us yet at the only real estate group worth being a part of on Facebook, go do that. And then once you've done that, one last and final request, go over to touracademy.com/take10 if you want to join our listing webinar. If you want to learn how we are taking over 10 plus listings every single month. The Good Home team right now is averaging over 15 listings taken.
Ooh.
I know we just signed our 7th one today. Elizabeth has 2 more out. That would make 9, and we are June 10th.
Boom.
So
That's crazy.
Going well on that. And the reason why I wanted to talk about today's topic, right? How and why you should turn your company into a media company. If
you're listening on iTunes, Nick is like struggling to pull his notes back up on his tablet, and so it's like his sentence structure is getting all weird because he's trying to mess with and talk at the same time.
But I sent this to you all yesterday, right? And Matt, your response, or I think it was Matt's response, is like, what would we talk about, right? And why should we have this mindset of why you should view your business, and honestly, any business. If you're not in real estate, if you're a home inspector, if you're in the title business, if you're a mortgage company, like, you need to be turning your business into a media company, because I'm sure, at least y'all have probably read, that through articles being published now, that the United States has been in a recession officially since February of 2020.
The greatest recession in 100 years, apparently.
Yeah.
And it's already started.
I feel like that is what happens every time. Every recession is greater. Is it just because inflation goes up and the dollar amounts around these things get more, and we just slap this is the biggest one now?
It's a lot of ways to measure stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like if the Dow is always at an all-time high before a collapse or a retracement or a correction or a recession at some point, percentage-wise, it's bound to always be the worst one from just like a raw, like, point drop standpoint. You know what I mean? Like a 10% reduction in 3,300 is a lot bigger than a 10% reduction in 33, right? So
I have these guys around me explain just
so
very easy numbers to me.
It's difficult to have a recession that was not as bad as the one before if we have bull runs in between that continue to uptrend the markets, right? So, but yeah, it's a really engaging headline. But I don't know. We'll get to all that obviously, and we'll talk about why you need to turn your brand into a media company and control the narrative and get the message out and be an informed agent. But I think just jumping off that, I think that's kind of the biggest thing is this is actually the 4th time I've had this conversation this week about the housing market and are we in a recession or are we heading towards one or all that type of stuff. I do want to preface this by saying 2 things. One, a recession is not always associated with a housing market collapse. The tech bubble really didn't affect the housing market at all. Now, there could be an argument to be made that it should have, and that's one of the things that continued to lead to a bubble that eventually burst in 2006 and 2008. There was real estate prices in San Jose and Palo Alto increased 30% during the tech bubble collapse. It was insane, right? But also, I don't understand why people think a recession. I understand why people think a recession is a bad thing in general. Of course it is. But what was that statistic about the housing market collapse of '08? And the National Association of Realtors put something out that was like the number of licensed agents dropped, I want to say it was by 30% or something. It was pretty crazy. But the average income for agents actually increased a little bit because there's a smaller pool of competition. And so I think that the underlying point that I'm trying to make as far as the relevance of this conversation is, don't be afraid of a retracement in the marketplace, or don't be afraid of a recession. Like, the reality is a lot of agents really thrive. I mean, Nick was one that built his career during the financial collapse.
Right. But let me ask you, so, I brought this up in my team meeting yesterday, and I said, if I told you right now that we've been in a recession since February, would you believe me?
I mean, March and April, I'm sure a lot of people, or April and May, people would have believed you. I will tell you, sitting here right now in the Dallas real estate market, watching what I see the agents who have been working their ass off this whole time doing, sure doesn't feel that way.
So again,
from a real estate perspective.
So March and April, that technically wouldn't. You can't call it a recession because one, we stopped everything down, and there wasn't consecutive quarters of
it felt
negative.
Slow then, right? Money felt lean.
Absolutely, but they're now going back and saying, look, we've officially been in a recession, meaning that the people that are a lot smarter than us, using, what is it? Is it 2 straight quarters of negative
GDP reduction? Yeah.
That obviously the last 2 quarters previously, that's what equates to us being in a recession. So again, here, if you start reading that, and if you're a real estate, especially if you're a newer one, like a little bit more inexperienced, would you be you're hearing that, does that change your advice to your clients?
I mean, I told you guys when we sat down, I already kind of have used this information just today on a listing appointment when just talking to people. I was talking to a lady about, she was just curious if the time was right to put it on the market. And I didn't use it to point one direction or the other. I just said, look, here's what's happening right now. Here's what the news says. Here's what the consumer's going to hear, right? If you have a need to sell, waiting may or may not make sense for you, right? So it's like, I think it's going to be part of the conversation you have to have with buyers and sellers about whether or not now is the right time for them to make a move.
Sure.
Especially coming out of all this other stuff.
And I think this is, I'll kind of jump on a conversation I had earlier today, but it's incumbent upon the agent to be educated enough in every specific situation, know what data to use, how to have those conversations, because there are a lot of people that own homes that, for example, let's just say they're downsizing. They're downsizing into a price bracket that has been particularly affected by things going on in the housing market, an economic recession, something like that. Like, let's just say somebody's up in the more high price point area, right? And not a lot of executive or luxury buyers have been affected by a recession. Should they sell if they're looking to downsize and move into where a lot more sort of just like white collar middle management price point, the $300 to $500 price point, I would say around here? That price point is bound to take a much bigger hit by an economic recession than a price point in which a lot of executives or people like that would live who aren't taking as huge pay cuts, right? So if that situation, hell yeah, sell your house and move into a price bracket that's being more highly affected right now, because you're going to get a bigger bump on the sales price, as opposed to if it's, you wait until it transitions to a hot seller's market, you might be able to sell your house for a little more, but you're going to have to pay more on the other end. That was the argument we were hearing 3 years ago from everybody. Like, oh, the market's really hot. That's why I don't want to sell, because I'd have to pay more to buy a house that's not as big, right? That's the opposite conversation when you're in a recession. So I think that just understanding the nuances of everybody's individual situation and be prepared for that is really, really big. A conversation we had on our team Power Up this morning, we were talking about a lot of our buyers jumping on new builds right now. And I was kind of quizzing the team, like, give me a articulate, laid out conversation for why there are so many opportunities in the new builds right now, right? And they're like, well, you can get a new house and there's a lot of incentives right now. And I'm like, dig deeper. Why are there so many incentives right now, right? And then we started to kind of articulate and play out, there are so many incentives right now because we were 4 million new builds short of satisfying demand at the beginning of January.
So how can we turn that, though? Like we take all what you're saying, right? And everyone's wondering, like, all right, we're having this recession talk conversation. How does that equate into turning your business into a media company? And what you're basically saying is, one, you got to be using that content and understanding the stats.
I'm saying you need to be smarter than the other agents.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. If you're not, then you have no media, you have no content.
And the consumer needs to know that you're smarter than other agents too.
Yes.
So some of that's going to be a little bit of you peacocking around the room, right? Like you have to put, and this is exactly what we're gonna dive into, but being able to have these conversations in the living room is important. Being able to convey it on the other side of a camera or through whatever medium you've chosen, I mean, that's gonna be a huge part of getting in front of the other agents before you even know that consumer's looking, right?
Right, and the way that happens, right? So, one, according to the Nielsen ratings, Americans spend up to 11 hours consuming media every single day.
Yep.
And out of that 11 hours, that includes up to 6 hours of video content, whether that's on a streaming device, mobile, etc. Right? Yep. And so, something that I was reading an Inc. magazine or Inc.com about, kind of the how to do this, how to easily set up your mind to turn yourself into a media style company, and they ended that article saying, like Gary Vaynerchuk says, if you aren't creating stories, you basically don't exist, right? So it's when you're a real estate agent, how can you create these stories on a day-in-and-day basis? One, for your platform, for your channels, and then when you're face-to-face in someone's living room or in your office meeting with buyers, how are those stories going? How are you going to build out those stories so that they understand, that client and consumer understands that, yes, now is a good time to buy a new construction. Sure. Now is a good time to put my house up for sale, even though I just read on MSN.com that we've been in a recession since February, and immediately I start thinking of 2008 and thinking of how bad that is. And no, I don't want to put my house up. Yep. I'm going to wait for the rebound. Or if I'm a buyer, I'm going to wait for the bottom, meaning I'm just going to wait for prices to drop. And we don't see it because here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, one, we have 2.7 months of inventory. Yep. We have a housing shortage, right? We have interest rates that are lower than low. And we've got homes that are getting multiple offers.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good conversation though, because then the next question an agent asks, especially one who's like, well, I don't even know where. Yeah, you guys got a podcast, you go this other shit, so it's easy for you guys to say go record videos. That's the exact content though, right? Like us understanding that while nationally we may be in a recession, that is not specific to our market at all. And being able to have nuanced conversations around inventory and pricing, and you and I walking in talking about what just recently happened with interest rates, and one of my buyers we were talking about today is jumbo loan on a VA, right? Like all this stuff, being able to have these conversations specifically around your market, the counties you work, the cities you work in, that's what we're talking about. That's the media that people care about, and that's what's going to take somebody off the ledge when they read that national-based article with its clickbait headline to being like, oh, okay, well, I didn't understand all of that.
Right.
But now locally it's great here, so thanks for letting me know, right?
And for example, so that clickbait headline, I saw, and I watched just a brief segment on this, but CBS 60 Minutes was talking about the housing market, and they interviewed a San Antonio real estate agent, right? And this San Antonio real estate agent basically talked about how horrible the market was. It was god-awful. I'm paraphrasing. She didn't say god awful, but right. Basically, like you should never get into real estate or even buy or sell a house, right? That's basically the gist of it. I see people blasting this person or CBS, not the agent, but the person, because 60 Minutes interviewed someone who has an inactive real estate license.
Oh, really?
They're not even licensed. Inactive. So they're not even participating in what's going on in the market right now. But that's going out on a national news media platform.
Sure.
And guess what? I saw a survey the other day that said, do you believe the media over the president, over X, Y, and Z, right? And over 60% of the people that participated in the survey said that they trust the media over all these other choices.
Which is crazy, because that's not what it seems like on my social media feed.
It also doesn't make any sense. How does it, was the president a different choice?
The president was one of the choices.
Does he talk to you directly? Because every time I see the president talk, it's on the news.
Right.
So how could you...
Well, he doesn't.
It's the same choice.
He doesn't send you text messages.
I'm just so confused. How could media be one choice, but the president is a different? You don't know him.
I'm somehow on the text messaging list, and
These
will not
surveys
stop.
don't make any sense.
It won't stop.
Well, but, I mean, and look, here's the thing: is we're talking about the exact problem.
Yeah.
Your job as a real estate agent, especially around this particular subject matter, is just to combat misinformation, right? And we're not going to go off about everything else, but that's a massive issue in the world right now. Yeah. You're talking about people people consume 11 hours of social media and television. That is coming from a million different places.
Yeah.
Very few of them are legitimate journalism, most likely, right? And so that is exactly what you're efforting to do. You're attempting to talk to somebody who heard an inactive person from San Antonio, and it's now that consumer's truth.
Yep.
You now have to unwind all that stupidity that was put in their brain by somebody else.
Yep.
To get them to a place where you can help them make the wisest financial decision with the most expensive thing they'll ever own, because that's what's best for them, not some joker in San Antonio who let their license lapse and somehow snuck onto a CBS sound set.
I think that's the biggest. Like, you just got to start documenting, right? Start shooting videos, start creating content. Honestly, if you want ideas, go to the media, find out all the stuff that they're misreporting on,
and then just
go
buck that. Yeah.
Because the new construction thing, that's perfect, right? Go shoot a 3-minute YouTube video on why there was a supply shortage, builders being publicly traded companies for the most part that want quarterly earnings reports to go up and up, so they'll give you incentives if you buy in certain times of the year, whatever, right? You could shoot pretty much anything that you want to convey to a consumer, document that, put it up on your YouTube channel, blast it out, and then you'll also have it for when you're having those conversations with prospects. How neat would it be to have a conversation with a prospect on the phone? It's like, oh, I'm not doing anything because of the recession or whatever, and you say, do you mind if I send you a link to a video that I shot that about X, Y, and Z or whatever, right? Being able to lay it out and kind of combat a lot of the misinformation out there at least gives you another weapon in your tool belt.
Well, and one thing that even we have trouble with, even with this show, right? And Elizabeth and I, where we do a weekly Facebook Live and try to do more, is that sometimes it feels like we're saying we're redundant in our message, right? And what I forget is that, especially when we're trying to reach consumers, is they want market updates. They want to see it and if done properly and correctly, right? Where I'm like, man, I just did a market update last week. Do I need to do another one? Like, I'm trying to think of new things. And I'm like, no, a lot of people, what's their number one question when they hear how, you're a real estate? How's the market doing?
Sure.
How's the market?
Which, by the way, if you're answering that question just like with, it's good, right? Like, you're missing the entire opportunity. Short scripting side note, you're missing the entire opportunity in that conversation. If somebody asks you about the market and your response is, it's good, right? That is a lead asking you a question about their specific real estate need. And if you don't dig deeper on that, I want to circle back around to what you said about the redundancy of the message. I do think when you reach a certain point, and we know people who do video and media on a much higher level than we do and do it a lot more than we do. And I will say we have finally reached the point now, 67 episodes in, lots of webinars, lots of in-person training type things we do, that I've heard myself tell the same story so many times it's nauseating, right? The reality is the person on the other end of that who is either inspired, discouraged, motivated, whatever the reaction they take from it is, most likely it's their first time hearing me tell that story. And that's what I think too, if you're doing a bunch of media and you're starting to feel like that, understand, I think that's the thing that you have to push through. And if you're getting started and you do any amount of this, also realize that you will get tired of hearing yourself. That doesn't mean the consumer isn't taking away the nuggets that you want. I even get like that with this show sometimes, man. We have people reach out to us who are like, hey, it was a really great show yesterday. And I'm like, okay.
Right? I couldn't wait to leave.
Yeah, like it was just like, I didn't really feel like we had any juice in that one, right?
Yeah.
So understand that part of this too is really, it's not about how you feel about the information. It's more about how the consumer receives it. And I think your thing to just going to looking at the misinformation that's put out there and speaking to that is huge.
I think that's such a good point. It should always be at least somebody's first time seeing your message.
Yes.
So don't get bored and tired and redundant of the redundancy and the consistency. There are many industries out there where we do people still go to church every single Sunday. They only talk about one book. So, you know what I mean?
I've never heard
there was two of them, though.
I guess there's two.
There's an old one and a new one.
There's many versions.
Right. But people don't seem to get bored with that. You know what I mean? So, you can put the same message out and just adjust it or whatever.
Well, and something that I've heard certain people say is just do one thing and make sure to just be consistent with it. But, something that stood out as one, I'm doing this research on this just so I can, when we're talking to teams and talking to the agents and talking to people over at Tour Academy. So if you haven't signed up for our mastermind group, it's twice a month. You get access to our twice a month mastermind group over at Tour Academy. So just go to touracademy.com, sign up. It's $27 a month still.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
But that's legit changing tomorrow.
Yeah, probably by Monday.
Yeah, I know that special pricing is ending. So special pricing for Tour Academy is ending. So right now it's $27 a month or $197 lifetime access. So go sign up to it right now because you'll want to be part of these twice a month masterminds as well as you get access to all the Tour Academy library. So, but something that really stood out on this is I was reading a Forbes article. So according to Forbes contributor Nathan Pettijohn, businesses that rely solely on a kind of one platform, like a website and traditional advertising, to hold their audience's attention, will soon start falling behind.
Why?
Right? And because look, the consumers now, how many? So if you're looking at just someone who's got, like, let's say just a website,
right?
But you're on Instagram,
sure. Okay.
You're on you consume audio, you're on Spotify,
right,
or you're on Pandora. And they don't follow you around.
Okay.
Right? And you start hearing somebody else that's in the same business, same
right,
company. Well, guess what? You're probably kind of like, all right, every morning I watch the morning news, right? My wife and I, we wake up, we have our cup of coffee, we have Channel 5 on, and Milestone Electric comes on. It feels like 100 times.
I could sing that song right now.
Yes.
Right? The funniest thing, we were in Anaheim a few years ago, and they have an electric company out there. It's the same dude, the same bald guy with the squishy face on the side of the truck, but it's called something else. Something else electric.
Right?
So awesome.
And so that's the thing is if Milestone, a Milestone real estate style company gets in front of them, and you're relying on your sphere to hopefully come to you just because they like Brian Force,
right,
and they've been friends with you since high school, but you don't really reach out to them other than on your blog, right? They're probably going to go to the Milestone Realty style.
So
company.
omnipresence is a lot more important.
Yeah.
Now, if you're just like kind of a self-contained, I think that's huge, right?
Absolutely, right? It's today's media landscape demands a cross-platform approach with multiple touch points. So, there's part of this Inc. magazine article talks about, well, like, what's the first steps, right? That's always the thing. Like, even on here, Ron Berner commented, I need to get started on video. I don't like doing videos, and I got to get over that.
And here, I want to say something to him on that because I appreciate him having the courage to say that because that's what we all feel. I'm going to be honest with Ron and everybody else. You need to do it, and I know that you recognize that because you typed it. Here's the thing. Yeah. If you just type that and then don't start doing video, this is just another day you're losing. Yeah. If you go back and watch any of our stuff from 2.5 years ago, not just us as a group, if you watch our stuff individually, it's wretched, bro. It's terrible. The reality is what we crush it at that I think really, really makes a huge difference in all of this stuff is, and we've said this a long time ago, and I think it got lost in the mix, and it's even important for us to remember, we implement the shit out of our ideas, right? Like, if you're just not willing to turn on the camera and then just do it and stick it out there, you're never going to get to the place where it starts looking like our stuff, where it looks organic, where it looks like, because you know what? Now you can really go live after you get spun out on the highway, right? Or whatever, right? Stupid crap like that is just you being you, but you don't get there without doing the first stuff that you feel like you need to break
through. So give the backstory on that.
So this honestly has nothing to do with media, but I do think it shows.
No, it does.
I think it shows overall how you can bring omnipresence to the world, right? So 35 north between the Dallas Zoo and downtown is one of the scariest stretches of road in DFW. Just long story short, moron driver spins me and my son out at 75 miles an hour on 35 the other day. I waited about 4 minutes, right? I wanted to make sure that I wasn't completely being like just unsympathetic to the situation, that my kid was in the car. I made sure everybody was calm.
On the phone while he was spinning.
Yeah, I turned around and got back in it, but once and the person who hit me ran off, which gave an extra layer to the story. I went live for 1 minute and 19 seconds, just about what had just happened, right? I didn't do it for the intention of getting people to like it or people to whatever. It was just a moment that happened, and I was like, this is nuts, right? And I was there for a minute. The paramedics came up. But what ultimately happened with that whole thing that was a real positive is I was able to have a ton of kick-ass conversations with people around what happened, around Luke, everybody who, because I've been so consistent in how I run my media, people were, Luke held it together. That kid always
exactly.
Like everybody was aware of how my kid acts, right? It was just this whole overall kind of bookend, and I'll continue to do social media, but that video in particular was a nice little bookend to all the work I've put in the Matt Kelderman social media brand over the last 2 years, right? Those types of things, they show you the people who watch your stuff, because one, there's a lot of people who reached out to me who's like, you guys, I just want to say I never comment or I never really say anything, but I just want to let you know I'm really glad you and Luke were okay, right?
You know who your real friends are.
Well, I mean, like, here's the thing is the outpouring of people, considering it was really such a minor physical thing, it was more just scary,
Sure.
was amazing. And it's still continuing to go on. And it's not about views or comments or anything like that. It was legitimately so many people that were just, holy crap. And maybe some of them were just like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, it's now just another thing that makes them think of me.
Yeah.
And
So what Matt is saying, get into a car crash. Go live right after.
Right.
I'm
Right.
just saying,
No,
if
you
you've
built that
introduced people
bank.
to you and your family,
Yeah.
and then you have a moment like that and everything is safe, throw it out there for the world to consume.
You've built that up by posting so much other content.
Yes.
That's where you sort of get a lot of that outpouring. I think that's huge.
And here's the thing: you talk about that. So the first step, there's two things I want to hit before this. But the first step in getting started, right? Because we have that analysis paralysis. Just like someone's like, I got to get over the fear of doing video. I just got to do it.
Yeah.
One, time block it. I mean, I have it time blocked in my calendar every week to at least make one piece, right? And it says creating content. Create content that provides value to your audience, and then the platforms you can release that on can be a blog, podcast, videos, or videos on YouTube, right? So number one, of course, is creating that content, coming up with something.
Yes.
So speaking of platform channels, right? This literally, Brian can attest to this. This came in. It's 3:33 as of we're doing this live. You're listening to the recording. It's 3:33 right now. This came out at 3:29. Christy Wright on our LinkedIn. We've got, again, we're practicing what we're preaching with promoting this, promoting the Tour Academy, promoting the Facebook group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, the only real estate podcast worth listening to. We promote this on multiple platforms, and we're getting better at it. Christy Wright said, responded to one of our messages that this was in my schedule to watch today. She was talking about the touracademy.com/take10, the Take 10 Listings webinar. And she's like, I just signed up for the lifetime membership with Tour Academy. So welcome, Christy.
Yeah, welcome. We're pumped to have you. That's awesome. Our next mastermind is on Monday. So if you guys want to get in on that before then, we started.
Mastermind's been juicy.
Yeah, we've had some really good stuff going on the mastermind. It's honestly, I love it because I learn more from that than just about anything I do all week, too. I'm always taking a crap load of notes during our own masterminds. It's huge.
And look, that comes from that we create content. I'm going to tell you, last week's episode of building that end-to-end platform with David, right? And he talks about on there, he's got the proprietary software, and that's something that we're all searching for, right? To create this end-to-end platform. What was his? It was Closings on Demand.
Closings on Demand.
Closings on Demand. I had people reach out saying that was an amazing show, right?
Really?
Was it episode 65 where we talked about the Michael Jordan mindset effect? I believe it was 65.
Yeah.
Right? Multiple people reached out on that one.
Yeah.
And where does that content come from? Well, first off, last week's episode content came from because of our mastermind.
Yeah.
I had something that had come up earlier that day where we are taking a ton of listings right now, and I'm talking to my operations team saying, "Hey guys, we're dropping the ball here somewhere," and we're up in listings taken. We're a little bit behind on our closing goal because of our first quarter, and I'm like, we shouldn't We were doing more business the first quarter last year, so you shouldn't be dropping the ball because we didn't drop the ball last year.
Right.
I'm like, oh shit. Actually, we've taken over 34% more listings, meaning we're servicing those clients.
Yeah.
Now we got to get them to turn.
You isolate the problem, yeah.
So we isolate it, and then we're trying to figure out, all right, what's those extra steps, right?
Sure.
That all came because that aha moment came because of the mastermind group.
Yeah, 100%. I'm telling you, I get more out of those than I think anybody else does. But I do want to jump back. So as far as creating content and stuff, yes, step one. What did you say step one was?
Creating content.
Is creating content. I will tell you what I think the real first step one is acceptance. It's kind of like the 5 stages of grief where acceptance is the last, but acceptance is the first here. You need to accept because we just had somebody commented on here. It's the same conversation we have had maybe 1,000 times at this point is I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. And I think my stuff's going to suck. The answer to that issue that you have is purely acceptance. Because guess who also deals with that? Every single person who makes it. And that's not me trying to patronize anybody. I'm just saying that one of the biggest hurdles to get over in the content creation realm is that it is not going to be perfect, or honestly, it's not even going to make you feel good for a while, probably. Unless, because here's the thing. If you just shoot your first video and you're like, that's amazing, look how cool I am. Like, you're probably a sociopath in the first place, right? Like, anybody with like a reasonable amount of self-awareness is probably not going to be happy with their first go. Like, we're just sort of designed that way. We're very insecure. We're judgmental of ourselves. We're our harshest critics. Making great content starts with the acceptance that you might not like it at first, right? And if you can get over that emotional hurdle, it is literally all uphill, down. I don't know what's the good one. Uphill?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you'd get that.
Yeah, because you still got to climb. Because you still got way more shit to do.
Yeah.
So it ain't
it's all
down, it's not
uphill
downhill.
in a positive way from there. You're never going to be as bad as your first time. But if you let that stop you, I promise you, every day that goes by, that you just build it up more and more in your head, you're going to be more and more afraid of it.
Go back and watch our last episode before quarantine sometime in March. Chauncey was on there. I think maybe episode 55 or something like that.
Yeah.
Dude, she for those of you, I've heard it twice. It's the air brakes on a semi out there.
Oh, gosh.
No, we're still
I thought we were
waiting.
about to see it, Derek.
Episode 67.
It's gonna happen at some point.
It's so crazy.
It's gonna happen.
So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, you're new to the show, Nick's camera shows 635 behind him, right? And we are just waiting for the day where just something small. We don't want him to get hurt, but we want to hear skirt crunch.
And then we'll see some guy going on a Facebook Live driving back
Yeah,
down the
exactly.
highway.
We'll see some dude jump over the wall and run off with his girlfriend,
bolting.
and then me just sitting there like, what the hell? And I don't know what I was saying.
Chauncey, you're talking
Chauncey,
about.
yeah, Chauncey really, I think for me, she opened my eyes to a lot of the content, and I just commented back to, sorry, I forgot his name. Commented back to Sean Wilkinson on the comment thread. Content is all around us. Yeah. From a real estate perspective, we just stop seeing it because we get so ingrained in our day. And you can find this conversation in a bunch of our episodes, and I think this should be a broader conversation about being like a media company, but. The first part of that is figuring out what you're going to say. Yeah. And I'm not going to give you some, find out what your message is and then find out what you like about it and then deliver it in a way that's passionate. Screw that. Like that, those are words that I will tell you for me don't resonate with me.
Sure.
You know what resonates with me? I had a really, really shitty listing, a really great listing that I just lost because of 3 terrible agents in a row and 2 terrible lenders involved in those transactions. There's a whole story around a failure that one, real estate agents can relate to. 2, it can help sellers not make the same mistake in the future, right? And the mistake wasn't hiring me, but the whole point is like you can have this whole conversation around that one experience and how it all went down that legitimately the general public finds incredibly intriguing, right? We are in real estate, we are surrounded by content. Like I just told him, there are whole channels dedicated to the shenanigans that are this industry. If you can't find enough content in your day, it's probably just, you just don't realize it's there and that other people are interested.
We tend to kind of just assume that people know the things that we know.
100%.
Right? So we don't think they're unique at all. I think that's a huge place to start is what's going on in your world real estate wise right now. That's probably your first bit of content.
Yeah, and Matt commented on the thread that one of the Facebook groups is, Colin Cameron and Tim Macy RETV.
It's an amazing Facebook group. I'll pump it out all the time.
Yeah. They got, and I watched the videos in there, and that
makes me feel so inadequate as a person who shoots video. I'll tell you that right now.
So that's good and bad with that group, right?
Sure.
Because there's some, like Colin does amazing videos, and I'm like, I'm not that creative. So I'm like, but at the same time, I'm just like, screw it. I'm not going to be that. Like, I'm not going to go on camera and do that kind of stuff. I'm going to go and shoot. Again, I'm just going to go live and I'm going to start doing it.
Yeah.
And or start putting it out on YouTube. I just made one yesterday. I did an interview with Elizabeth. I did a little bit of editing chop, and I posted it. I'm like, you know what? Because that's still educational. It provides value. Mm-hmm. It's that title was is your real estate agent playing chess or checkers?
Right.
Right. And do you really need to hire an expert real estate negotiator in your real estate transactions? Like, because how many real estate agents talk? I'm the best negotiator out there. Well, and I'm like, what does that even mean?
I just saw Draper tune in, and he told us in our last episode, right? Here's the thing is, guess what else you don't need, guys? It doesn't need to be this massively original thought.
Yeah.
You could legitimately take that idea, is your agent's playing chess or checkers, and you could have your own conversation around it. Without even watching Nick's video, you could take that exact headline and put whatever spin you want on it. I think we just get too caught up in this idea that somebody already did that. But like Kyle said, your people didn't see you do it.
Right.
And that's what matters.
Well, that's the thing. I just Googled before the episode because we were talking about, are we already in a recession? I just Googled the word recession. Like, every single news outlet has their own spin and twist on this. Like, but they all have their own audiences, right? So yeah, if you think that somebody's already talked about it, so it's not worth talking about it, like, unless they've talked to your audience, then it doesn't really matter. Plus, if they're talking to your audience and you're not also talking to your audience, they're going to take your audience.
You know who does a really good job at this is, look, I'm biased, but it's working. Elizabeth Austin, right?
Yeah.
She goes, her platform, and she's chosen it. Her platform is Instagram, and it's Instagram stories.
And it's stories.
And the stories.
Yep.
And I will tell you that she's gotten agent referrals from it. I'll tell you she's gotten buyers and sellers from it. And Elizabeth, the good with her is that she's 100% transparent. There's no fluff in there. Like, she will share the good, the bad, the ugly. And look, there's times that she's gotten some heat from it, right? She shared one where she was showed how she won over a client.
I remember that.
You know, we just talked about this a few months back.
Yeah.
She won a client over that, someone watching that Instagram stories, they knew that the client and started reaching out to the client and just caused a little bit of headache with it, right? She still was going, she's not going to hold back.
Yeah.
Right? She's still pushing the needle forward, and she's got her people following.
Right.
Right? She curses a lot. She's not going to apologize for that. Just like in this show.
Nobody on this show apologizes for that
right?
shit.
Yeah. In this show, we run the show the way we want it to be done.
Words are just noises that come out of your head.
I'll tag Elizabeth. Stevie
I've got it right
Okay,
here.
perfect.
I just looked on Instagram. I'm sending it to her right now.
Perfect. So number 2 of what are the steps in this? Number 2 is don't just post content on your websites and be done with it. Distribute and promote across multiple channels.
So this is huge, and honestly, this is the part that really appeals to me, because this is stuff you can systematize. You know, Matt's got a VA now that does a lot of this distribution form and stuff, which is huge. Yes. Get a whiteboard and whiteboard out your distribution channels, right? If you're just posting video on your own website, like, you're relying heavily on SEO and things like that, like, that's an uphill battle you're never going to win. You need to have, there's a distribution channel for every audience, for every time length, for every sort of genre, right? So YouTube's longer form than Facebook, which is longer form than Instagram, which is longer form than TikTok, and appeals to all sorts of different audiences, right? Like, you need distribution channels set up to get your message out there. If you're just posting in one place, that's going to be it's only going to go so far, right? And it's not that hard to set up your distribution channel, so that just kind of becomes a system, kind of automatic. But yeah, you need to be everywhere.
Well, and it's funny that you talk about that too, because also don't assume that what somebody else's platform is perfect for you, because like, to your point with Elizabeth, she does it in a completely different way than somebody else might do it, right? I live more on Facebook, and my Instagram stories are not nearly as clean and pretty as hers are. No. And the same thing happens in mine. I stumble across buyer and seller referrals. We had an agent. I got a buyer referral from somebody on my Facebook the other day that ended up on my Facebook because somebody else tagged them when I asked an Instapot question 3 months ago.
Really?
That person was on my Facebook, has seen what my real estate business looks like. Her sister is attempting to buy here and was not satisfied with her representation. The person was completely unresponsive.
Right.
So she called her sister and was like, hey, I know this guy. Can I connect you with him? Had a conversation with her yesterday. We're figuring all that stuff out, right?
Yep.
So, like, it just comes to you in the weirdest of ways. But I assure you, it will not happen if you're not putting yourself out there.
That's a crazy testament to just consistent content creation.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it was
not
just,
even about real estate.
No, she ended up on my page because I was talking about Instapot somethings, and somebody tagged her, and I just friended her because her response was funny as shit. So I just like, whatever.
So this is where I would want to have, like, if we could somehow just magically pop Draper in just for this brief moment. Like, because I would want to rank, again, each platform is different, right?
Sure.
So Facebook, if you're doing Facebook, I would say Facebook Live is probably the better option than just posting a video on there.
Seems 100%. At least right now.
Right? And Instagram, it's seeming, actually, what I'm starting to notice on Instagram, not just on the stories part, but I'm starting to see more and more Instagram TV starting.
IGTV stuff,
I'm starting to see the
They're starting to push
IGTV
that
really
pretty
work.
hard,
Right? Because I watched one today. It was Ryan Stewman. Like, and I don't watch a lot of Ryan Stewman hardcore closer stuff, right? But I got stuck in an 11-minute video of his today.
Yeah.
And that was IGTV.
Yep.
Right. So you got to look at the distribution channels with the platforms.
Sure.
TikTok, I don't look.
Look, I think there's people getting stuff from it. I know a lot of people
Nick's
who are on
on
there.
TikTok is dancing videos.
I'd have one dancing video.
Is that on Heather's page?
It is.
Oh my God, it's glorious. He went all out. Here's what I'll give Nick credit for. I'm so self-conscious, I would have never engaged in that process in the first place. Nick at least got up there and owned it. And honestly, probably looked more coordinated than I would have anyway, so I can't really say much.
Let's hope
bad,
so.
dude. It wasn't bad.
I'm going to say, like, I thought I nailed it.
Yes, dude. I
Everyone
would not
else
have
is
done
like,
it.
oh, look at Nick. Like, I was like,
I was impressed with the total amount of talent in the room. There was really no weak link.
Yeah.
Which made it seem like you guys practiced that forever.
I will say that there's a lot of there's probably a lot of more outtakes on that.
He's like, we started at 8 a.m.
Yeah. Right. Look, I will say that quarantine TikTok was fun.
Sure.
I bet.
Like that started during quarantine, and you will probably, unless we see another quarantine, you will probably see I probably retired my TikTok career.
He's ones and dones.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going out with a blaze of glory on that
Sure.
one.
It's all right, dude. Hit a home run your first at bat and get the hell out.
Right. So distribute and promote. Like, again, we're having a lot of success right now on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And LinkedIn is still that wild west in terms of what you can do with it. I haven't been approved yet for LinkedIn Live. Like, there's beta, and I keep replying.
Yeah,
for
I've
it.
been too.
That is writing more articles. Like, I see articles, like I did one a couple months ago that my brother did, and I promoted that one, and that one did really, really well.
I need to take all Brian's blogs and just claim credit for them
Do
and
it,
post
dude.
them as articles.
Dude, man, just copy and paste every Monday.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about that too, and I will tell you, a slight side note, because Nick's about a month ahead of me on this, but I'm also doing some similar stuff with LinkedIn that he is. If you guys are interested in that, reach out to Nick or I, because we're at the beginning stages of this thing, and I will tell you, there is a lot of opportunity with the types of conversations you can have inside that platform, and then how you can take it outside.
100%.
Not media, not topic related, but I'll tell you, we are going to, with Justin Nelson, we're going to be releasing a LinkedIn opportunity here. It's affordable. I'm going to tell you, you would be, I'm going to question intelligence level here if you turn us down and not take us up on a webinar that we're going to do with Justin. And the reason I'm saying it right now to actually make sure that we get it done.
Yeah.
But if you don't take advantage of this,
You're the one who brought it to me, and after I sat down with him, and just in my 3 weeks of playing with it, the amount of stuff that Brian and I have talked about that we can be able to do with it, and just for the connection aspect, it's a totally different source of opportunity and a totally different group of people that you can have a very real business type of conversation. Yeah, Stevie had a closing last week from LinkedIn, right? Like it's a great platform when used properly. Right, and it's a platform that you don't have to. If you're the kind of person who's like, I don't want to inundate my Facebook with my business stuff because people only want to know what I'm like doing outside of work. One, I think that's folly, and you're missing a huge opportunity. But LinkedIn, you can have it's okay to ask if they have referral partners. You can ask 100% business related questions. It is expected. So you can have a much more direct conversation with people as you're building certain other arms of your business.
Sure, 100%. I think that's usually, the stakes aren't quite as high on LinkedIn either, as far as like your social clout too, like Facebook of all, and just as far as like.
I'm on LinkedIn for the messenger, bro.
Yeah,
Nobody likes Jack in my feed.
This is sliding into the messenger.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I've done too. What I've liked on this one is I don't feel like I have the relationship connection. So like some of these people are dicks, and so what I do. Remove connections.
Remove them and just, I do the same thing, bro.
The cool thing with LinkedIn, you can also have 30,000 connections.
Yes.
Right?
That's
so,
cool.
I mean, there's a lot of cool things that we can do with that. So be on the lookout for that. But that's also another platform, right?
Yes.
We're not just talking about LinkedIn just to bring up a webinar that we're gonna have you guys jump on. But it's another platform to promote. And don't be bored with it. I see some of these just sold the list don't make it boring.
Sure.
Right? That's where you can start doing and getting creative with your messages. That's where learning some copywriting in it. And if you're going after clients, like you could run a doctors only through this LinkedIn program that we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. You could only connect with doctors, do a video and promote that video out through Messenger and connections. Like there's so much. That's why you also want to go to Tor Academy, because that mastermind group that we tell you that we talk about, there's a lot of shit we can do in there that we can share that we don't have time for on here.
Well, it's just a deeper conversation, and we're able to look people in the face and answer their specific question. It's just a different conversation.
So number 3 is be consistent. Right? I don't know why we have to keep saying this, but be consistent. If you aren't going to see any results if you're just pushing out one piece of content a month, or maybe two 2 times a month. Like, this got to be, if you're going to release something every week, it needs to be weekly. And I've got a great story on that. Our friend of the show, Joe Rosen.
Yes.
That dude is on fire. Guy moved to Port St. Lucie, Florida, not knowing anyone down there. I think he moved from Minnesota, if I remember correctly.
No, I think he came from Washington.
So it was far away.
He's a Minnesota boy, but I think he was somewhere else.
He had a real estate team in Minnesota, got out, went somewhere else. He was in the Army, I believe it was, military guy, and moved to Port St. Lucie, didn't know anybody, started his business down there less than a year ago, I believe, and he's got 4 or 5 closings lined up this month.
Yeah,
we're starting to see his closings line up. But what he does, first off, he's circle prospecting, and his whole goal with circle prospecting is to build an email list so that he can send out his weekly email. His weekly email has videos in it. He does a weekly at 7:11 a.m. in the morning, does the Joe Rosen like wake up call or whatever it is.
The accountability thing.
Accountability call. He does videos with local. He said he's becoming like the local mayor there because he's doing all these videos with local business owners and promoting that out. And then his YouTube channel that he started, I believe, less than a year ago as well, has already passed 1,000 subscribers because he's doing either a weekly show or is that
he dude, I'll tell you, we've been doing this show for almost 2 years, and he has more episodes of his show out than we have of this.
So it's more than I think it's more than a weekly show.
Well, and here's the other thing too. We're not even talking about the fact that every time I see a referral out there for Port St. Lucie, no matter because I will tell you, Joe doesn't ride in the same brokerage that I do, right? But I will tell you right now, I absolutely draw Joe's attention to, hey, there's a Port St. Lucie referral, bro. Google this person and call him. Right, he's the first. And just imagine how many other people are doing that. They just know that's what he does. You know, we had who are our boys over at Titanium Investments that had their
RJ Bates.
Yeah. So I remember we weren't even 10 episodes into the studio show, and one of you said it, but or maybe I can't remember. They said that it's episode 17. If you want a metric for your consistency, until you get to the 17th episode, you don't have it yet.
Yeah.
That is where it takes on a life of its own. It becomes a responsibility, right? Enough people are watching you feel obligated to do it, right? You know, this show is really fun for us, but it's also like, I wouldn't do it if this live feed said 2.
Right, after a while.
Right?
But here's the thing. We did that in the beginning.
But we did that for a while, right?
Well, but here's the thing. The consistent part with that, right? In the beginning, we were that was fun.
Sure.
Right? It still is fun. Don't get me wrong. But in the beginning, that was driven all off of just pure fun, right? And now, 67 episodes in, right, we've got to get more strategic with it, right? This right here, I'm more strategic with our content now. Like I'm doing research on this to make sure that, all right, can we continue providing value? Can you go sign up for Tour Academy for $197 lifetime access before that goes away, right? I want to make sure there's value there.
Yep.
Right? We do enough business day in and day out to still provide value. But if we're all over the place, you're going to tune out.
100%.
Right? So if you're all over the place in your message, guess what? Your people are going to tune out.
Yep.
Right? We had a new person partner with us at our brokerage, and one of the reasons he was looking at that was, you know, he lost a 5th person in this guy's sphere, didn't go with him. I said, well, you've got a broken gate there. Your gate's open, and your herd's getting out.
Yep.
So we got to fix the gate.
Yep.
Right, and so that's the thing. If you're not hitting them enough, guess what? Even your closest sphere, they're going to go elsewhere. Right, because they don't see you as the expert anymore.
Yep.
Maybe they never saw you as the expert in the first place. That was all relationship based, and now they're looking at Milestone Electric and saying, "Oh, if they got into real estate, I'm going to go with that Milestone guy."
Isn't it proof of concept, right? Like I mean, like you need to show people that you know what you're doing, right? And do it in a way that celebrates the success of the other person. That's all it is. Nick does an amazing job of this with his agents. He celebrates every single success they have, right?
100%.
Regardless if it, like, here's the thing, regardless if that becomes redundant, and I will tell you, like, even on my side, I'm like, oh man, I got to do this. Like, here's the thing. You brought that up. I'm 3 behind. We just took 3 listings. I saw them come out just now.
That's good, though, but you should also space your content as well, right?
Sure.
Now, you guys are at a place now with a large enough team where you guys are cranking enough pendings that you can almost do this daily, right? That one you did with Elizabeth where it was just like, I'm not even doing individual posts for this shit because she's just crushing too much right now.
I can't. Like, she's...
Right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, and here's the other thing too, guys, if you don't have that because you don't have a team of 20 agents, you're not pending 26 deals, space out your content.
Yeah.
The day you have that closing, post the closing. But if you get your review that day, save the review to post tomorrow.
Yep.
Exactly.
Right? Space out all of this stuff. The last thing that I think is really important when we're talking about this, and I think people really understand social media do this at a high level, don't stomp on your own content.
Yeah.
If you have something that's doing well, leave it alone.
Let it
right?
burn.
Let it burn for a little bit, and then post your next thing. But when you're lucky enough to start getting those posts that get 100, 200, 300 likes, right? Leave those alone. Don't post some other bullshit meme on top of it, because that's just not how social media works, right? So I think it's really important for people just to understand also exactly how this whole message is the most effective, right? And you can go back and watch any of our videos with Draper. There's 3 of them at this point where he talks about this exact thing, how to go back and re-engage with the content. It's something that, very honestly, we've done a shit job of all these shows. We've got 1 million shows. Today is a great day of comments, but we have other shows where there's a bunch of comments, and it was before we started engaging with people during the show that we could go back at any point and respond to 1 million of those comments that would immediately get year-old posts more engagement. Nick honestly has one of...
I knew you were going to bring this
and
up.
I will leave us with this because I think this is perfect. Nick honestly has one of the most slapped together transition videos over to their move to their new brokerage. Half the team wasn't even like still on. Like, it was a video they did for something else.
Just standing in front of a Christmas tree. It's super like time
they
of
made
year.
the move. What time of year did you make the move? It was like June or some
July.
shit. It was July.
There's a Christmas tree.
And there's a Christmas tree in the background. Here's the thing is, every once in a while, not every once in a while, every single time Nick does something, he goes in and posts like the webinar or something on the bottom of that, it pops back up. I think that son of a bitch got like 13,000 views at this point.
I'm at 13, all organic.
And every time I see it, I'm like, you son of a bitch, that video is trash. And you just keep rolling that thing out.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. The video's not trash.
No, the video is great.
Video
it's just,
quality,
the
the quality's good. And,
the video is amazing.
And
I'm
the
not saying
reason why
video.
there's a Christmas tree is because it was a December announcement that got delayed until July.
It's actually a really great video from the standpoint of like the way the videographer did you.
Yeah,
and then the production is hilarious. I just know the story behind the video, and I'm like, these damn shenanigans.
We did say Christmas in July, though. We did try to do play on words with it.
It was great.
But here's the thing. That's also, I wasn't going to spend $600, $700 to make a new video. I was reusing what we had, right? And that's something else that people do. Don't overspend just because. Like, just use the content. Like, again, with what we have 67. Again, what you're starting to do, Matt, with the VA is starting to chop our stuff up because we've got years worth of content.
Oh, I could post stuff right now from a year ago that people be like, "That's amazing," and I'm like, I forgot we even had that person on the show.
And the way to look at this is we could stop the show today and continue pushing this out for years, right?
Sure. And it would still be relevant because the conversation isn't around the majority of the time what's happening minute to minute in our market. The conversation is around how to crush it in this business, and that doesn't fundamentally change.
Here's what I say: go follow Chauncey Pham.
Yes.
Go follow Coach Kyle Draper.
Yes.
Go follow Joe Rosen.
Yes.
Right. Go follow Elizabeth Austin. You're already following us if you're hearing this, right? So dig deeper into what we're doing, right? Leave us a review on iTunes. Subscribe to our YouTube channels, and go join the only real estate group worth being a part of, because that's where it all goes down.
It does. Hey, Derek, show them the new stuff. Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one. Then go to that one. Thanks.